Hello everyone, this is Christine. Today I'd like to introduce you to one of the most famous Tang Dynasty poems, Li Bai's Quiet Night Thought, 静夜思. Let's first take a look at the original text. 床前明月光，疑是地上霜。举头望明月，低头思故乡. The character for character English translation is bed front, bright moonlight. Suspect is ground on frost. Raise head, look bright moon. Lower head, think of old country. This poem rhymes with the ang sound, as heard in the word 霜 from second line, 疑是地上霜, and the word 乡 in the fourth line, 低头思故乡. When reading poetry, we sometimes need the aid of modern Chinese prose. For this poem, we can refer to the following translation. 半夜醒来，发现床前一片明亮，以为是地上铺满了皑皑的盐霜。等到抬头一看，原来是明月的光辉。望着皎洁的明月，想起月是故乡明，思乡情怀也涌上心头，不禁黯然低头思念可爱的故乡。And the English translation is, waking in the middle of the night, I found the area by my bed bathed in bright light, and thought the ground was covered in a blanket of pristine frost. But when I looked up, I realized it was the glow of the full moon. Gazing at the radiant moon, I recall the saying, the moon is brightest in one's hometown, and a wave of homesickness washed over me. I couldn't help but bow my head in melancholy, longing for my beloved hometown. Looking at so many different translations, it's easy to see that this poem consists of only 20 characters, yet its meaning is so profound. Moreover, since everyone feels differently when reading this poem, this naturally influences the content of the translation. I must remind all of you that a translated poem can affect the reader's mindset, depending on the translator. If you are not yet able to read the original Chinese text directly, reading several different translations might give you a fresh perspective. Now, do you remember the introduction, development, transition, and conclusion structure we learned in the previous lesson? Let's see how this poem is structured. The first line, 床前明月光, as an introduction. Bright moonlight before my bed. The opening immediately established the time, which is at night, and the location, before the bed, and the scene, bright moonlight, creating a quiet, desolate atmosphere. The second line, as for development purpose, 疑是地上霜. This line, building on the previous line, it describes the sensation of moonlight spreading across the ground. Because the moonlight is pale and cold, it leads one to mistake it for autumn frost, further intensifying the bleak and desolate atmosphere while also serving as a metaphor for the poet's own cold, desolate state of mind. The third line, transition shifts, 举头望明月. The transition from looking down in deep thought to lifting one's head to gaze at the moon reflects the poet's shift from questioning the scenery to deeper contemplation. The moon becomes a vessel for his longing. And the fourth line as a conclusion, 低头思故乡. Finally, bowing my head, contrast with the earlier looking up, directly highlighting the theme of longing for home. This line condenses boundless homesickness into the simple act of bowing my head, making it profound and deeply moving. Now, about Li Bai. He was born in 701. He was one of the most outstanding and influential romantic poets of the Tang dynasty, revered as the poet immortal, wine immortal, or exiled immortal. Li Bai was born in Suyab, the present-day Kyrgyzstan, on the ancient Silk Road, and moved to Sichuan with his family at the age of 5. He read extensively from a young age. His poetic style was bold and unrestrained, often centering on themes of drinking, the moon, friendship, and homesickness. Du Fu once praised him, saying, "When his pen falls, it startles the wind and rain. When his poem is finished, it moves ghosts and gods to tears." As we know, scholars have offered various theories regarding the background of Quiet Night Thought, with most focusing on the period when Li Bai was wandering far from home. Some scholars believe the poem was written in the 15th year of the Kaiyuan era. Others suggest it was a work of homesickness composed after Li Bai have squandered 300,000 taels of gold. Yet another scholar speculates it was written between the 6th and the 8th year of the Tianbao era, when Li Bai was 47 to 49 years old, a time when he had left the imperial court and was stranded in Nanjing, feeling distressed and disheartened by the political decline. Another specific theory suggests that the Quiet Night Thought was composed in Yangzhou in the 14th year of Kaiyuan era. At the time, Li Bai, then about 26 years old, arrived in Jiangnan with the ambitious goal of seeking official appointment, only to squander 300,000 taels of gold on socializing and feasting. However, when his funds were exhausted, his friends scattered one by one, leaving him with a profound realization with the fickleness of human nature. At this time, Li Bai was destitute and plagued by serious illness. Fortunately, he was saved by the assistance of Meng Shaofu, the magistrate of Jiangdu County. In the autumn, having just recovered from his severe illness, he climbed the West Ling Pagoda at Daming Temple. Late at night, unable to sleep, Li Bai wandered to the railing of the well in the central courtyard, gazing at the autumn moon casting a frosty glow. This literary genius reflected on the arrogance he had felt when leaving Shu and his current state of having achieved nothing. A mix of frustration and loneliness, he looked up at the bright moon over the hills of Shu and composed this timeless poem of homesickness. There are actually some interesting anecdotes surrounding this famous poem. Over time, significant variations have emerged in the transmission of Quiet Night Thought, with the main point of contention being the first line, whether it reads, "Gazing at the moonlight before my bed," 看月光, or bright moonlight, 明月光, and the third line, whether it reads, "Gazing at the mountain moon," 望山月, or gazing at the bright moon, 望明月. Most scholars agree that the earliest extant printed edition of Li Bai's poetry collection, the Southern Song Song Shu edition, and the complete Tang Poetry, compiled under the imperial decree of Emperor Kangxi, both included gazing at the moonlight, 看月光, and gazing at the mountain moon, 望山月. This is also the form preserved in current Japanese textbooks. However, in the Ming Dynasty, Zhao Guang and others in 10,000 Tang Poems change the third line to gazing at the bright moon, 望明月. In the Qing dynasty, Wang Shizhen and Shen Deqian further altered the first line to bright moonlight, 明月光, and finally, 300 Tang poems compiled and printed by Hen Tang Tui Shi during the Qianlong era established bright moonlight, 明月光, and gazing at the bright moon, 望明月, as the standard, becoming the mainstream version most familiar to the public. This discrepancy has sparked debate over literary taste. Supporters of gazing at the mountain moon argue that the character mountain, 山, highlights the desolation of a foreign land, heightens the sense of loneliness, and avoids the issue of repetition with the first line's moonlight. Opponents, however, pointed out that using two verbs with the same meaning, look, 看, and gaze, 望, simultaneously is a major taboo in poetry. Conversely, supporters of the bright moonlight and gazing at the bright moon versions argue that although the phrase bright moon is repeated, when combined with the actions of raising one's head and lowering one's head, it creates a layered sense of emotion that builds in waves. This allows the scene of the bright moon to reflect the image of one's hometown, revealing a natural and effortless beauty. Some scholars suggest that even if the Song Dynasty printed edition in the earliest extant text, later alternations may have, by a twist of fate, restored the essence of Li Bai's style, which is characterized by unintentional artistry that is nonetheless masterful. Next one. Let us examine what exactly the word bed, 床, in the poem's first line. Bright moonlight before my bed, 床前明月光, refers to. Historically, there have been three main interpretations. The first one, the indoor sleeping bed, and the second one, the outdoor folding stool. It's a seat, similar to a folding chair. And the third one, the well platform, the well railing or the pulley frame by the well outside. Those who advocate for the sleeping bed argue that Tang Dynasty poets often described moonlight streaming through windows to illuminate beddings indoors, depicting the sleeplessness of travelers at night. Thus, moonlight entering the room and falling upon the bedhead is entirely reasonable. However, some scholars believe the character Chuang means the folding stool. But now let's look at the third one. The interpretation currently supported by many scholars is well bed or well railing. Archaeological evidence shows that Han Dynasty tomb mural bricks depict well-shaped wooden frames for drawing water, extending to the ground to provide support. These were called well beds. Furthermore, Yangzhou, where we believe Li Bai composed this poem, was a city of wells. At the time, legend held that the well water at Shugang in Yangzhou was connected to the distant region of Bashu, where is Li Bai's hometown. Thus, as Li Bai stood by the uncovered well outside his room on an autumn night, he saw the moonlight shining on the well railing like white frost. When he lowered his head to look at the well water, he associated the water source with his hometown, triggering intense homesickness. Interpreting bed and well creates a perfect interplay of associations between well bed, bright moon, and hometown. Based on the above analysis, we can interpret this poem from a different perspective. Standing before the dew-covered well in deep contemplation, watching the surroundings bathed in moonlight as if they were a sheet of frost. I had not felt the passage of time, but in the blink of an eye, late autumn has arrived. At this moment, it seems I have been away from home for a very long time. Here, on the rolling hills of the Bashu Mountains, gazing up at the same moon that shines over my hometown, and looking down into the well at the river water gushing forth from my homeland. After all, this is Yangzhou, 1,000 miles from home. Having achieved nothing, I am truly sorrowful and long for home. In this translation, the visual and emotional descriptions are rendered more clearly and poignantly. The content is, to a greater or lesser extent, the result of later generations' embellishments and imaginings, all of which have been pieced together from historical evidence. Perhaps you might also consider which of these many translations is your favorite. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.